Welcome to Unleashed Podcast, where all are welcome. Now, here is your host, Pup Twigs.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Unleashed. Pup Twigs here in Orlando, Florida, and joining me for today's podcast is Pup Apollo from Louisiana. How are you?
I'm doing good, Twigs. How are you?
I am good. So I'm just going to get right into it. I know I like to give a little bit of information ahead of time. You requested not to see any of the questions ahead of time because you wanted them to be a surprise. So I honored that. So our first question is, can you share a little bit about your journey and what being part of the LGBTQIA plus community means to you?
Well, for me, it actually started in 2013. At that time, I had transitioned from being a master with collared boys and decided, okay, I'm doing this to individuals. It's like, I don't know what, the questions or any kind of feedback. I was like, let me find out what it's like. Well, it was fairly new to the community in my head. And so with people like Pup Trip, if you remember Pup Trip way back, he was a international title holder.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking with him and I started, trying to explore my pup side. But I was kind of alone here on the Northern Gulf Coast because at that time there were only two organizations for puppies. One was 8 hours away in Dallas, Texas, the old DFW pups. The
Mm-hmm.
other was in Atlanta, which wasn't an official paw, but that was the nearest one. So it's like I'm by myself.
Okay.
So I just started, learning about it, and that's how I ended up finding my current roommate. He was into the puppy community when he lived in Dallas, so he was very familiar with how it goes. So he started helping me, understand how to get into the mindset, and I used it primarily for my military PTSD as a way to escape my human side, so I'm
Okay.
not having any possible, outlashes like I've had in the past. But for me, it's just one of those where, you know, I wanted to try to start a group down here because I can't be the only one that's interested in this down here on the Northern Gulf Coast. And
Right.
so my roommate and I were the co-founders of NOLA Paw. We actually started a paw group here in New Orleans, which at that point started spreading over to Houston. It spread over to
Mm-hmm.
the Mississippi Gulf Coast, including Mobile, the Panhandle of Florida. We've got one up in Memphis. I mean, it just started sprouting because of what Ron and I did. So it made me feel like I am a part of the LGBTQ plus community.
And that's awesome that you it's just funny how you see how it grows so quickly
Mm-hmm.
and everything. Well, if you could leave our listeners with one message about, love, acceptance, or just being true to yourself, what message would you want to leave them?
Well, take care of yourself and each other first and foremost.
Yes.
The key importance is take care of yourself first. If you are not comfortable, then don't try to help somebody else out if you can't help yourself out. And that's pretty much the message I do. I mean, I am an alpha, but I only have one collared beta that I consider and that calls me an alpha. But if a pup comes to and asks me for advice, I'm willing to give as best advice as possible, but I'm not collaring them, but they do respect me by calling me alpha.
Okay.
And I like that, it's the younger generations than me, because when I started, I was officially middle aged. So I'm seeing more of the younger generations coming up. And it's like, okay, we need to follow what used to be the old guard style, of your place. If you're a dominant, you're a sir. If you're a submissive, you're either a boy, a slave,
Yeah.
whatever. For me, it was pup. But you always show respect, regardless of if you are under, their that person's umbrella or not.
Right, right. Well, very cool. Well, what advice would you give someone who is just now starting to embrace their identity?
Uh, Identity as far as a human being or identity as far as a puppy slash pet critter,
It could
however you
be
just,
either or both.
well, as far as if you're trying to figure out your identity as a human, take a look at yourself inside. See what exactly it is that you are questioning. Like for
Okay.
me, growing up in the 1980s, being a gay man was like very taboo. You got beat up. I mean, it was the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of wondering, why am I different? Why is it that I'm not watching the cheerleaders at my high school game, but I'm more interested in the tight end on the football field?
Yes.
That kind of a thing. But I also lived with very, very Reaganomic conservative parents where the family is first. And so I literally started, you know, imploding myself and I started living a straight life to the point where I actually had girlfriends. I ended up marrying a woman and having a child myself. But it took Hurricane Katrina back in 2005 for me to realize that I am a gay man. And only because at that time I was in the military stationed at Keesler Air Force Base with the Navy, going through my
Mm-hmm.
weather forecasting school. My ex and child were still up in Washington State at my last duty station. Well, when Katrina hit, the president said that this was a federal disaster area. So that meant no dependents could come down. So they had to go up to Minnesota and stay with her parents while I was 9 months on my schooling down here.
Oh,
But
wow.
during that time, we had to go through and do what's known as humanitarian cleanup after the storm. I
Mm-hmm.
ended up partnering with some people from the Air Force, the Mississippi Army National Guard, the Mississippi Air National Guard, and one of them was a man with the Mississippi Army National Guard. He apparently saw something in me. Apparently, that whole gaydar thing that I didn't know about went off on him. And so I started hanging out with him after, my classes, my duty, our cleanup and stuff. Started hanging out with a bunch of his friends, and it just clicked like a light bulb. It's like, I'm more happier being a gay man than I am living a straight life. But at
Yes.
that point, my mind just completely Hiroshima. I was like, wait, I'm married with a child. Oh dear. Oh dear. So my advice to anybody is figure out what it is inside of you. Don't make any decisions right away, but take inventory of what's going on around you and then
Okay.
decide inside, okay, am I a gay man? Am I a transgender, individual? Am I a lesbian? And then
Mm-hmm.
from there, figure out, okay, well, if this is what makes me happy, that's fine. Questioning is, key to communications. You need to question everything, even inside your own head.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, awesome. Well, assuming that you have been to some Pride events, what has been your favorite memory or even your favorite event that you've attended over the years?
That would be Pride Parade up in Washington, D.C. in 2022, when I took myself out of my comfort zone and my old high school color guard instructor, who never instructed me because I was a percussionist, but the first year after I graduated, he took over the head position as the color guard instructor. I got to know him very well. As a matter of fact, he and I, will go up. I'll go up to Atlanta. He'll come down to New Orleans. We just, you know, shoot the what, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But he, he knew that I was very good at doing color guard stuff because of my freshman year. My high school band was chosen to appear in a feature called Leader of the Band, starring the late Steve Landisberg from Barney Miller fame,
Mm-hmm.
as well as maybe Mercedes Rule, who I believe she was the 2000 or no 1992 Oscar winner for Best Supporting Actress in The Fisher King.
Yeah.
So I got to work with them, but in between the takes, I would always hang out with the color guard ladies, and they taught me how to spin and toss a flag and everything. And so at that point, that's how I learned to do color guard stuff. So he decided, "Have you ever spun a rifle before?" I was like, "No." So for about 3 months prior to, I started learning how to spin a rifle, and my best memory of Pride is marching in our national Pride in Washington, D.C., spinning a rifle with some Drum Corps International veterans who were experts. I just felt like I was like, I feel like a kindergarten gardener at a senior prom or something.
What an amazing experience.
Yep. And seeing the difference between the pride that goes on in Washington, D.C. versus the pride that's here in New Orleans, those are the only two that I've been to. It's like night and day. In
Mm-hmm.
Washington, D.C., yeah, you have your few protesters that go around, the ones that say, gay is sin or whatever it is,
Yeah.
but down here it's even worse. I mean, it's Catholic, it's true Christianity, and
Yeah.
we're all going to hell because we're gays and lesbians and all. They line the parade and will sit there and get in your face as you're marching down the parade, or if you're a spectator, they'll be all up in your grill. So it was like night and day for me. So it was like a very good experience. I felt proud to be a gay man when I was up in our nation's capital.
Yeah. Well, I definitely. Well, what misconceptions about our community do you wish more people understood?
The misconceptions, maybe it's more something that I think about when it comes to the pup and critter community, being that a pup is completely submissive. There is no such thing as you have control. No, a submissive or a bottom, a pup, a
Hmm.
kitty, whatever, you're the one that's in ultimate control. The handler or the owner or whatever, you have to read that pup. That's why we have handlers. When pups mosh, before I can't do it anymore, but when I moshed around, having that handler there to see, okay, this pup needs to take a break, or this pup needs water, or this pup needs his knee pads taken care of, whatever.
Hmm.
So they would take care of us. We were the ones in control, but they always watched us. And that's
Okay.
how I think the misconception is if you're a pup and an alpha, you're the dominant, you tell everybody what to do. No, no. You know, you are the one that watches over pups. You don't have complete control. And the
Okay.
one misconception that I see with these younger generations coming into the pup and pet play is it's all about the look. It's all about the sex. No, it's not.
Right.
If that's how you want to interpret it, that's great. Other people use puppy play or pet play for different reasons. As I said in my example, I use it to control my military PTSD. It gives
Yes.
me a mental escape from my head. So I'm not outlashing and thinking that I'm, back on the USS Carl Vinson and we're being attacked in the Persian Gulf. No.
Yeah.
A good example of that was, I believe it was the very last year we had the two contests one weekend up in St. Louis, right before Joe Massapequa passed away. And for some reason, there was just a smell in that big hallway or big ballroom where we were all doing the Friday night meet and greet and stuff. And just the smell hit me, and literally my whole vision turned to I was back on the flight deck of the Carl Vinson.
Oh, wow.
And the only thing that saved me was a gentleman by the name of Nathan, who was a handler up at the old Seattle Pups and Handlers. I believe now he lives in Virginia Beach. But just seeing him in his leather kilt and everything, was like, that's not a flight deck. This isn't real. It all dissolved. And I just quickly excused myself, went up to the room. Everybody there was like, what happened to Apollo? Where's Apollo? Where's Apollo? I ended up, just falling asleep. It was like I knew I had to take myself. So for me, I wasn't in my headspace,
Yeah.
but just a smell could trigger it, a sight, a taste. It doesn't matter. But that's why I use pup play to, get out of my own head and
Okay.
not
And that's
have situations like that.
definitely
As I,
understandable.
but as I said, there are some people that use it, solely as a sexual thing, and that's perfectly fine.
Right.
The problem that I'm seeing is a lot of people are trying to invoke the sexual side on people who don't want to do that. And that's where I see the downfall in our community. I do
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah, I do. You're right. I do see that as well. So, well, this question, I don't know. I just like it. It doesn't really have to do with pups or anything, but if you could instantly master one talent, what would you want to master?
Master the art of chaos. Because that's has been something that has been a part of my human life. It is also something that's also been a part of my puppy life.
Okay.
And one of the things that I do is people show up as like, oh, Apollo's here. We're going to have complete chaos. I'm like, really? I can be, very civilized, very obedient, but I do have a tendency to be very mischievous. So, mastering the art of chaos to where I can say, okay, let's start, this little thing. I like to call it the Eddie Haskell syndrome. I'm sure you get the reference. The younger generation may not.
Yeah.
Say one thing in front of authority figures, but then go and do something different behind their backs.
I
you know, I
I
was
love
very
that.
I was very good at that, and I still am to a certain extent. But as I'm getting older, I'm finding, that may not be the wisest thing to do.
Get you. So what has been one of your most proudest moments so far?
Uh, can you elaborate, like in my life or in the as being a pup?
I
As
would just say in your life.
actually, I would have to say it does stem from the puppy side of me,
Okay.
and that would be the year that I was very first year of being a pup, 2013 into 2014, and in March or April, I forget which month it was, 2014, my uh my roommate now, who at that time was unofficially my handler, he didn't put a collar on me, but it was just one of those understanding things between
Hmm.
us. He says, "You've got to go up to IPC." I was like, "Why do I have to go to IPC? I can't afford to go to IPC. I've got child support to pay. I've got all." No, you've got to go. I was like, "Okay, well." So I was able to get time off. We all drove from the Mississippi Gulf Coast all the way up to St. Louis that year. I was like, okay, my first big event,
Hmm.
because I hadn't been to anything other than, like bar night at the old Dallas Eagle, or going to the Oz here, or not the Oz, the Phoenix here in New Orleans. I was like, okay, I've seen some of those events. It's not really huge, but this was puppies and handlers and everybody from around the country and Canada at that time. We hadn't really gone international at that time. We didn't
Yeah.
have pups from Europe or Australia like we do now. But it was like, okay, I know who you are. I know who you are. Oh, it's good to see you. I mean, it's one of those moments and stuff. It's like, okay, but apparently, I had been nominated for what Joe Massapequa started when he started IPC. Was you had your contestants, competing for the international title, but he always made it about what have the pups that aren't in the community done for the community over this past year? Who's a good boy or a good pup? And
Hmm.
somehow I got nominated. I was like, all right. I tried to figure out, like, Joe would not tell me who nominated me. I was like, I got to find out who this is. Who the heck thinks that I'm a good pup? I mean, I went to Ron. I was like, did you send an email to him? No. I mean, I went to everybody, including the original people that were a part of NOLAPAW at that time. I was like, what the heck? Okay, this is a complete mystery to me. So I was like, well, I see who all has been nominated. I was like, yeah, they got it. I'm just going to sit here. I'm just going to sit here. So I was sitting, as Pup Trip was doing his step down before they awarded the Good Puppy of the Year and Handler of the Year. And I was like, okay, well, that's nice. Okay. And the winner is Pup Apollo. I was like, I was, like, okay, did I just hear my name? Yeah, you need to go up. I was like, I don't have a speech. And the reason I didn't have a speech is I didn't think I was going to win. So back in that day, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go behind the building and smoke some weed and, get all nice and toasty and stuff. I was higher than a you know what. And I was like up on stage. I was like, okay, I don't know how to give a speech right
Oh
now.
no.
So I'm winging it as best as possible. I think I've got a couple of pictures of me actually doing the speech on my Facebook page. So I'll have to dig that up and possibly send a copy to you so that you can see. It's like you can't really tell in my eyes, but you could tell in my goatee. I had a long goatee at the time, and I had dyed it like I think it was vampire red or something, just to try to cover up the gray because I was not ready to accept old age. But the other part was the handler of the year was ironically the man who got Puppy started from the beginning, taking it away from the leather community or the old BDSM sir master slave type thing, and made it its own entity. That was John. I forget how to say his last name. We all knew him as Pup Boss,
Okay.
and he was handling it. It was like, wow, I get to share that. So that was a proud moment for me. It was like, being named 2014 Good Puppy of the Year, and I get to share this, community award with the man who actually made Puppy its own entity from the leather community.
That is awesome. I love that
But
story.
afterwards, I finally, like about maybe 3 weeks to a month after the contest, I ended up, messaging Joe Massapequa. And I was like, okay, now that everything's over, who is the one who nominated? He says, let me send you an email. And so he attached the email that was sent. I was dumbfounded when I found out it was my late partner who actually did it. My late partner was not a part of the community. He supported me for what I was doing, but he's the one that nominated me. And I
Wow.
was like, wow. So that's why that is very special to me.
I would say so. I would keep that close to me. But
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's awesome.
Sorry, let me put my eyes back on. Everything's blurry. Getting old sucks. I'm officially a proud carrying member of the Council of Elder Pups. I love it.
Well, who is or was your celebrity crush?
Uh, that's a tough one. The more I think back on it, I've got several of them going through my, when I was a little kid back in the 1970s when,
Mm-hmm.
stagflation was the everyday word, all the way up until right before the pandemic. I've had many of them, but if I had to say there was one, I would have to say that crush would have been Tom Cruise back in the mid 1980s when he was Top Gun and Risky
Okay, that's
Business.
that's a
So
good
that
one.
was that one. So I'd have to say Tom Cruise at that time. Now it
Okay,
doesn't
all
mean
right.
that I wasn't looking at the females. I mean, everybody had Cindy Crawford up on their ceiling.
Oh
The whole
yeah, oh
yeah,
yeah. No, I got you. I grew up the same way. So, well,
yep.
overall, and we'll talk about the LGBTQIA plus community.
Okay.
What does community mean to you, and where do you find yours?
All right. Community, in my definition, is a group of similar minded individuals, whether it's the puppy community. We all have, or I should rephrase that and be more politically correct, the pet community,
Okay.
because the puppy community is puppies, it's also kitties, it's
Mm-hmm.
otters, it's I think there's actually one that's, I want to say, a penguin. I've seen that one. There's somebody that identifies as a penguin. I was like, okay, great, I want to see what this mass looks like.
Mm-hmm.
you know but to me that is a community uh, in itself. The LGBTQ plus is a community. I like to use the term from the movie or the book Divergent. You remember the movie. you know
Mm-hmm.
we are isolated from what I call the straight community. Oops, sorry. And but within that community we have sub communities like factions: the puppy community, the leather community, the
Yes.
rubber community, the females of leather community, those kind of things. We're like individuals within that big umbrella called LGBTQ plus or whatever it is, the alphabet one.
Yeah, I know.
But that's to me what I see as community. It's like-minded people that have similarities, but at the same time look at the whole picture and we're all within that same one. Same
Okay.
thing, even community as we are Americans. We may disagree with how this is going. This is going. You're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're conservative, you're liberal, you're independent, you have no party, but we all are a part of a community. We're all Americans. And
Yes.
so I see it as people with similarities. That's part of a community.
Yeah. Okay. And I definitely agree with you. What song out there, and it could be an old song, new song, whatever, is your hype song? What gets you going whenever you hear it?
Uh, Hold on. I have to actually pull up my iTunes. I have it. It's, you can't recognize my face. Thank goodness I have passwords. No, I don't. Not now. I don't want to do that. Sorry, this takes a while. I've got so many lists for so
Oh,
many
that's okay.
genres in my
That's all right.
life. It's a song called "This Is My Life" by Edward Maya.
Okay.
It's more of a DJ slash house type dance song,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember it because when I listened to that song, some of the words in it describe me being a pup. This is my life. I'm chasing a dream that fades in the night. And so that was my pup song to help me get into my headspace back then. Now I listen to it whenever I get kind of down, depressed, or, oh, woe is me in my own head. I'll
Mm-hmm.
listen to that song. It pops me up. Now I don't necessarily dance because I'm not going to take a chance with the VA taking away my guaranteed crazy check every month.
Oh, well, last question.
Okay.
Who is your ultimate icon or role model?
That's easy. My old high school band director. When I graduated from a school up in Marietta, Georgia, Lassiter High School, and my band director was the great and legendary Mr. Alfred L. Watkins.
Okay.
And he was with Lassiter for 31 years before he retired, but he would always make sure and always made sure that whatever we did on the field, if we made a mistake, he never, ever scolded us. It was always one of those, he made you think. I was like, why are we doing it this way?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, we need to reposition. We need to do this. Or is that the crescendo or decrescendo? I mean, I don't know. It just didn't sound right to me. It was one of those, he made you think. And that is somebody that I look up to now. Even to this day, I'll give him a call every so often. Hey, Mr. Watkins, how you doing? And we'll talk about things, what's going on in his life with all of his new grandkids that have come around and stuff. And, it's just one of those, we catch up, but he's always been an idol to me ever since I became part of that program back in the mid 80s.
Awesome. Well, if others see this podcast and they want to reach directly to you, how is the best way that they can get in touch with you?
Oh, definitely on Facebook. I live on Facebook. I mean, I have it constantly up on my phone when I'm not watching, news on my TV or some rerun that I have to look at. I'm always on my laptop or my phone and always on Facebook seeing what's going on. I will jump around to several other profiles like my government name profile.
Sure.
I also am the administrator of my high school band's mascot, which is an old Cabbage Patch doll dressed up in the original, very first band uniform. I monitor him. So I have a Facebook page there, but I'm always on Facebook. So that's the best way. Apollo Peterson.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's been awesome getting to sit here and talk to you. Any last words before we sign off?
Yes, my ever famous quote to the puppy community. I've said it before and I'll say it again. No more boop ABBA. I do not like ABBA, but yet everybody plays ABBA because they apparently say, I'm the dancing queen.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, thank you again for wanting to be on here. It was a pleasure getting to sit and talk to you and learn a little bit about you.
Well, the
And
pleasure's all mine, Twigs. The pleasure's all mine.
I know we will get to talk again real soon.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and share with your friends. Until next time, keep wagging, keep shining, and stay unleashed.